I failed 9 times, but the 10th time changed everything. Introduction. Some failures break us, some failures teach us. But a few failures, the rare ones, shape us into someone we never imagined we could become. Most people talk about success as if it's a sudden moment, a lucky break, a perfect day, a twist of fate. But what if success is not a moment at all? What if success is simply the courage to stand up one more time than the number of times life knocks you down? This is the story of a man who failed 9 times, in public, in private, in silence, and in front of the world. 9 attempts that ended painfully. 9 chapters that almost convinced him to quit. Almost. Because the 10th attempt, the one he started with nothing left except determination, became the moment that changed everything. Character introduction. Ethan Miller, full story beginning. My name is Ethan Miller, and for most of my life, I believed something was wrong with me. Not physically, not mentally, just something invisible. Like I had been born without whatever ingredient successful people carried inside them. Growing up, I wasn't the smartest kid in my class. I wasn't the strongest or the funniest or the most talented at anything in particular. I was simply average. So average that I blended into every room. So average that teachers forgot my name. So average that I felt like the world had already decided who I was supposed to be. But deep inside, I had one desire, a small fire I didn't tell anyone about. I wanted a different life, not a fancy one, not a famous one, just a life where I felt alive instead of trapped inside a routine. My parents were good people, simple, hard-working, satisfied with stability. My father worked 30 years at a factory, the same shift every day, the same tools in his hands. My mother spent her life behind a grocery counter, smiling politely at customers who forgot her face the moment they left. They believed in safety, salary days, predictable futures. Don't take risks, my father would say. Find a job that pays on time, my mother would add. But I never felt comfortable inside that world. Even as a child, I wanted to build something of my own, something that didn't already exist. When I was 16, I accidentally found my first spark. I bought an old broken smartphone from a neighbor for $20. I watched a few tutorials online, learned how to change the screen, fix the charging port, clean the battery. It took me 4 hours, but when I finished, the phone looked almost brand new. I sold it for $80. That was the first time in my life I felt a taste of possibility. A feeling that maybe my life didn't have to follow the blueprint everyone expected. A feeling that maybe I could create something instead of being assigned something. But possibility is fragile. It needs confidence, and confidence was something I didn't have yet. For years, that small spark stayed inside me, waiting. Fast forward to my early 20s. I graduated college with average grades and no real direction. People around me got internships, found steady jobs, started climbing predictable ladders. I was stuck, lost between what I didn't want and what I didn't know how to reach. That was when I decided to take my first real shot at building something. A business, a dream, a chance at a future different from the one I saw around me. I had no mentor, no experience, no connections, but I had a little bit of savings and a stubborn voice inside me saying, "Try." I wish I could tell you that my first attempt went well. I wish I could tell you I had natural talent, but that's not the truth. The truth is, I failed badly, My first business was an online clothing store. I picked designs randomly, selected suppliers blindly, tried to sell to everyone, created ads without strategy. And when the orders didn't come, I panicked. Within 4 months, almost all my money was gone. I closed the website one night in silence and sat on my bed staring at the floor, wondering how I could have been so wrong. That was failure number one. My parents didn't yell, they didn't shame me, but their silence hurt worse. It's okay, my mother finally said. Now find a proper job. Proper job, safe job, stable job. It felt like the dream inside me was being buried alive. But I couldn't give up, not yet. So I tried again. Failure. Number two was an app I built with a college friend, a study planner with reminders and motivational quotes. We convinced ourselves it would go viral. We convinced ourselves students would love it. We forgot to actually ask students. The app received 27 downloads, mostly from friends and curious cousins who deleted it within days. We closed the project quietly, pretending it didn't matter. But it did. Every failure leaves a crack inside you, a crack big enough for doubt to grow through. When failure number three happened, the crack widened. I applied for a promotion at my regular job, believing that if entrepreneurship wasn't working, maybe corporate success could give me a sense of direction. I worked late nights, helped co-workers, took on extra responsibilities, prepared everything perfectly. On announcement day, they called someone else's name. My manager said, "You're good, Ethan, but not leadership material yet." That one word, yet, felt like a blade disguised as kindness. So I tried again. Failure number four. A photography side business. I bought an expensive camera, watched dozens of tutorials, tried offering cheap sessions, but I had no concept of branding, no niche, no understanding of the market. No bookings came. Failure number five. A YouTube channel about tech repair. 10 videos, 15 views each, comments from bots, no engagement. I quit. Failure. Number six, I invested in cryptocurrency at the worst possible time, lost almost everything. Failure. Number seven, a handmade leather goods store. Better branding, better photos, better ideas, still no consistent sales. Failure. Number eight, the cafe, the one that hurt the most. I poured everything into that place. Money, time, energy, dreams. I imagined people working there, reading books, writing, studying. A quiet corner of the world where people built their futures. But 3 months after opening, a major coffee chain launched a store just 2 blocks away. My customers disappeared overnight. Bills piled up, debt mounted. I fought as long as I could, but eventually I had no choice but to close. And then came the ninth failure, the one no one sees, the one that doesn't involve money or business or opportunity. Failure number 9 was inside me. It was the moment I stopped believing in myself. It was the moment I began to accept the life I once feared, a safe, predictable, ordinary life. I stopped trying, stopped dreaming, stopped hoping. I existed, nothing more. Until one night changed everything. That night I was sitting alone in my apartment, lights off, room silent, scrolling through my phone without seeing anything. My life felt like a long hallway of closed doors. Then my phone buzzed, a message from my 17-year-old cousin, Noah. He wrote, "Our teacher asked us to write about someone who inspires us. I wrote about you." I froze. Me, a failure 9 times over? Someone who inspired him? He sent a picture of the assignment. He had written, "My cousin Ethan has failed many times while trying to start businesses, but he keeps trying even when people laugh at him. He teaches me that failure doesn't mean you stop, it means you try again. My throat tightened, my vision blurred. Someone was watching me, someone was learning from me, not from my success, but from my failures. And for the first time in years, I felt something inside me move. Not hope, not confidence, responsibility, maybe, just maybe. I wasn't done yet. So, too, I failed 9 times, but the 10th time changed everything. My cousin's message that night didn't magically fix my life. It didn't erase the failures. It didn't refill my bank account or build confidence overnight, but it lit something inside me, a small flame, a reminder that maybe my story wasn't over yet. A whisper that said, "Someone believes in you. Don't quit now." I sat there in the dim light of my apartment, holding my phone, staring at the words again and again. He teaches me that failure doesn't mean you stop, it means you try again. The truth hit me like a quiet revelation. I had failed 9 times, yes, but the only reason I felt like a failure was because deep down I had accepted failure as my identity. I realized something painful that night. I wasn't afraid of failing again. I was afraid of trying again. Trying meant hope. Trying meant possibility. Trying meant putting myself back into a world that had beaten me over and over. But doing nothing, that meant slowly dying in silence. So I made a decision, not a dramatic one, not a heroic one, just a simple promise to myself. One more time. Just one more. I didn't know it then, but that one more time would become attempt number 10, the attempt that would change my life. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The sky was still dark. The streetlights hummed with a soft glow. I sat at my kitchen table with a blank notebook in front of me. At the top of the first page, I wrote, "Attempt the Sa 10, and beneath it, what do I know better than most people?" It was a strange question. I had never asked myself that before. I usually ask things like, what will make money fast? What trend can I copy? What business do others succeed in? But I had learned 9 times that these were the wrong questions. So I stared at the blank page and slowly answers began to appear. I knew what failure felt like. Not theoretical failure, real, painful, soul-breaking failure. I knew how it felt to try something and watch it collapse. I knew the shame of seeing others move ahead while I stayed behind. I knew the loneliness of believing I wasn't good enough. And I knew something else. Even with all that, I had somehow found the strength to try again. That was my story, my experience, my expertise. Not success, not winning, but getting back up. Suddenly, an idea formed in my mind. A platform. Not about success, but about failure. A place where people could share their stories of falling and rising again. Where failure wasn't the end of the story, but the most important chapter. A place where people understood that they were not broken, not alone, not hopeless, just human. And I would call it something simple, honest, and powerful. Try again. At first I laughed softly. The idea felt too small, too emotional, too different from the business world I thought I needed to fit into. But then I remembered something. The world didn't need another perfect story, it needed real ones. So I began. I didn't start with a fancy website or a marketing budget. I didn't hire designers or developers. I didn't take loans or chase investors. This time I started the smallest way possible, the way I should have started all along. I began with a simple blog, one page, one story, my story. I titled the first post, 9 Failures, One More Try. In that article, I wrote the truth raw and unfiltered. I wrote about the clothing store that died in silence, the app no one downloaded, the cafe that drained my savings, the nights I cried quietly, the mornings I pretended everything was okay, the shame, the doubt, the fear. I wrote everything people never talk about. I didn't try to impress anyone. I didn't pretend to be wise or experienced. I didn't hide my flaws. I simply told the truth. When I published the story, I expected almost nothing, maybe 10 readers, maybe 20, maybe none. That night, the blog had 11 visitors, not impressive, not viral, but it was a beginning, a real beginning. I kept writing one article each week. Slowly, little comments started appearing. Thank you for sharing this. I needed it. I felt this in my bones. I failed too. I thought I was alone. Please don't stop writing. The comments were few, but they were real, and real mattered more than anything. Then something unexpected happened. A young woman from Canada messaged me privately. She said she had failed medical school twice and had been on the edge of giving up completely. She wrote, "Your story helped me breathe again. Thank you." I stared at her message for a long time. It hit me. People didn't need perfect inspiration. They needed honest connection. My failure was helping someone I had never met, someone thousands of miles away. This wasn't a business anymore. It was a responsibility. Over the next 3 months, I expanded the blog into a small platform. I added sections: share your story, lessons from failure, how to start again, anonymous confessions, community forum. At first, only a handful of people posted, but each week, a few more joined, a few more shared, a few more encouraged one another. People began writing about failing exams, losing jobs, ending relationships, closing businesses, losing hope, finding hope again. The platform became a safe space, a place where people could fall without feeling like their lives were over. And then something big happened. A well-known motivational content creator stumbled on the site. He shared one of our stories on social media. That night, I refreshed the analytics page. Visitors, 2,200 visitors, 2,300 visitors, 3,900. Within hours, thousands of people were reading, commenting, connecting. My hands shook as I watched the numbers rise. I had never seen momentum like this. By the end of the week, the platform had over 10,000 new members, and every single one came with a story they were finally brave enough to tell. I cried that night, not because I felt successful, but because for the first time I felt useful. All those failures, all 9 of them, each one had taught me something. Each one had broken a piece of me, but strengthened something else inside. Those failures had not destroyed me, they had built me. Attempt number 10 was working. Not because I became smarter, or because I found the perfect idea, or because luck finally found me. No. Attempt number 10 worked because I had changed. I wasn't trying to win anymore. I was trying to connect, to help, to create something meaningful. Success came as a side effect. One night, as I was replying to messages, I paused and looked around my room. The same old apartment, the same old table, the same old me, but not the same life. I realized something profound. The world doesn't reward perfection. It rewards persistence. My story was not special because I succeeded. It was special because I failed 9 times and still chose to stand up the 10th time. That was the beginning of everything. I failed 9 times, but the 10th time changed everything. The unexpected growth of the platform shocked me, but it also awakened something powerful inside me. responsibility. I wasn't just building a website anymore. I wasn't just writing articles. I wasn't even just helping strangers. I was shaping a space where people could breathe again after failure, where their stories mattered, where their pain wasn't embarrassing or shameful, just human. For the first time in years, I woke up with purpose. I spent every morning answering emails from people around the world. A mother who had lost her small business, a student who had failed his exam 3 times, a man recovering from addiction, a woman rebuilding her life after divorce, a teenager who felt worthless because she didn't get into her dream college. They came not for quick motivation, Manam, but for honesty. For someone to look them in the eyes and say, yes, you fell. But that's not the end. Try again. Every story I read felt like a mirror, reflecting pieces of my own failures, my own doubts, my own fears. But now, instead of feeling alone in them, I felt connected to a world full of people who were trying their best with the strength they had. The more I read, the more I understood something deep. People don't fail because they're weak. People fail because they're trying to grow, and growth is messy. One evening, as I worked late on the platform, I received a message that stopped me in my tracks. It was from a young man in India. He wrote, "I'm not writing to share a success story. I'm writing to tell you that your website saved my life. I failed my engineering entrance 3 times. I thought I was finished. Then I read your article about failing 9 times. For the first time in months, I cried because finally someone understood me." I sat very still after reading his message, not from pride, from humility. All my life I had believed I was nothing special, just an average man who couldn't get anything right. But now my failures, those moments that once felt like curses, were becoming someone else's hope. What a strange, beautiful thing that was. I whispered softly to the empty room, maybe the world wasn't rejecting me, maybe it was preparing me. As the community grew, people began asking for more than stories. They wanted guidance, direction, structure, help with starting again. So I introduced something simple. Weekly try again workshops on topics like how to rebuild confidence after failure, how to plan your next attempt logically, how to let go of shame, how to stay disciplined when hope feels weak, how to learn from what broke you. I expected maybe 10 people to show up to the first session. 56 appeared. The second week, 132. The third week, over. 300 people weren't coming because I was an expert. They were coming because I was real. I didn't speak at them. I spoke with them, with the voice of someone who understood. That authenticity became the foundation of everything that followed. But growth brings challenges too. Running the platform alone became overwhelming. Emails flooded in faster than I could answer. Stories piled up faster than I could review. Technical issues kept appearing. Spam accounts infiltrated the forum. Servers crashed under the unexpected traffic. I felt exhaustion crawling up my spine. Some nights I slept only 3 hours. Some mornings I woke with a headache so heavy I could barely think. One evening, after the servers crashed for the 3rd time that week, I stared at the screen in frustration. "This is impossible," I muttered. "I can't do this alone." It felt like the beginning of another failure. Number 10 looming just ahead. But then a message notification appeared. It was from a woman named Clara. She had been following the platform since the early days. She wrote, "I'm a web developer. I believe in what you're building. If you need help, I'm here." A few minutes later, another message arrived. A psychology student, then a motivational writer, then a community manager, then an entrepreneur, all of them offering help, all of them wanting to join the mission, all of them saying the same thing. Your story helped me when I was falling. Let me help you now. I realized something powerful. People don't follow perfection. They follow authenticity. I wasn't leading a business, I was leading a movement. So I made a decision that would shape the next chapter of my life. I assembled a small volunteer team, 5 people from different countries, different experiences, different skills, brought together by one thing. They had all failed. They had all risen again, and they wanted to help others do the same. Suddenly, Try Again wasn't just a website. It was a community, a team, a mission, and it was growing faster than ever. A few months later, something happened that I never expected. I received an email from a small publishing house. Subject: We'd like to talk about a book. I sat there staring at the subject line for a full minute. A book? Me? The man who failed 9 times? The man who used to doubt every idea he touched? I opened the email carefully. They introduced themselves, mentioned they had been following Try Again, and said they believed the world needed a book that spoke honestly about failure. Not as something shameful, but as something essential. They asked if I'd be willing to write it. I leaned back in my chair and laughed under my breath. Life is strange. The things we think disqualify us often become the reason we're chosen. I didn't answer right away. I was afraid. Writing a book felt like a mountain I wasn't ready to climb. But then I received another message. This one from a 54-year-old man who lived in Texas. I lost my job at 50 and thought my life was over. Then I found your platform. I started again. Thank you for giving me the courage to not disappear. I stared at that message and felt my heart tighten. That was the moment I realized, if I don't write this book, someone out there will stay silent in their suffering when they could have found hope. So I replied, yes, I'll write it. The writing process was messy and emotional. Some days words flowed effortlessly. Other days I stared at the blinking cursor for hours. I wrote about each failure in painful detail, not with shame, but with honesty. The fear, the embarrassment, the self-doubt, the financial loss, the nights crying alone, the mornings pretending to be okay. And then I wrote about attempt number 10, about finding purpose in pain, about discovering meaning in mistakes, about building something not from strength, but from scars. When I finished the manuscript, I cried quietly, not because it was perfect, not because it felt like a masterpiece. I cried because I had finally told the parts of my story I once tried to hide from the world. And now, that story would help people I would never meet. 2 months later, I received a call from the publisher. The book was approved. They were sending it to print. I sat down slowly, my hands shaking. I felt the weight of every failure, every late night, every loss, every setback, and I whispered, "This is what the 10th time looks like." But the story didn't end there. This was only the beginning of the beginning. I failed 9 times, but the 10th time changed everything. The day the first box of printed books arrived at my apartment, I stood over it for almost a full minute, unable to bring myself to open it. I was afraid that it wouldn't feel real, afraid that it would feel real, afraid of holding in my hands something I once believed I would never achieve. afraid of disappointing the version of myself who once whispered, "Maybe you're not meant for anything." But eventually I took a deep breath and opened the box. There it was. My name on the cover, my words inside, my story pressed into paper and ink. I held the first copy gently as if it might break. And in that moment, alone in my apartment, with nothing but the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Not pride from success, not pride from achievement, pride from knowing I didn't quit when quitting was the easier choice. I thought about every version of myself who had sat in this same apartment, head in hands, feeling like a failure. I wished I could go back and tell him, "You're not failing, you're preparing." When the book launched, I prepared myself for disappointment. Most first-time authors don't sell many copies. Most books disappear quietly. But something strange happened. People who followed the Try Again platform started sharing the book online. Then their friends shared it. Their families shared it. Their co-workers shared it. One night, a teacher from New York posted a video online. She held the book in her hands and said, "I'm giving this to every student who thinks they're a failure." Her video went viral. In less than 48 hours, the book became the #1 trending title in the self-improvement and motivational categories. I stared at the ranking list in disbelief. Me, Ethan Miller, the man who failed 9 times, #1. I covered my face with my hands and laughed and cried at the same time. The world's recognition didn't make me proud, it humbled me. It showed me something powerful. People aren't hungry for perfect stories, they're hungry for honest ones. A week later, I received an invitation that felt unreal. A university wanted me to speak at a seminar called "The Psychology of Failure and Growth." Me, speaking on a stage to hundreds of students. My hands shook when I read the email. All my life I had avoided attention. I wasn't confident, I wasn't charismatic, I wasn't extraordinary. But maybe that was exactly why I should go. Maybe people didn't need a perfect speaker, maybe they needed someone real. So I said yes. When I arrived at the campus, I felt small. The building was large, the crowd bigger than I had imagined. The organizer greeted me with a warm handshake and handed me a microphone. My palms were sweaty, my heart raced. I could feel my childhood insecurities trying to claw their way back to the surface. What if they don't like me? What if I fail right here on stage? What if I forget my words? Then, just before I walked up, I remembered Noah's words. The boy who wrote I inspired him, the boy who saved me without knowing it, and I whispered to myself, "Just be honest." I stepped onto the stage. The room fell silent. Hundreds of faces looked at me with expectation. I took a deep breath and began. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a genius. I'm not someone who succeeded early in life. In fact, I failed 9 times. 9 times I thought my life was going nowhere. 9 times I believed something was wrong with me. But the 10th time, the time I almost didn't try, changed everything. The room leaned in. I told them about my failures one by one. I told them about shame, fear, nights crying alone, mornings pretending. I told them about the cafe that died, the business ideas that collapsed, the rejection that hurt, the insecurity that haunted me. And then I told them about the platform, the book, the people I helped, the people who helped me, and the moment I realized failure wasn't the end, it was training. When I finished, there was silence for a moment. Then applause, loud, warm, real. Students lined up to talk to me, some with tears, some with shaky voices, some with stories too heavy for their age. One girl said, "I failed an exam last year and thought I was worthless. Today, you made me feel human again." Her words cut straight to the deepest part of me. That day I understood something life-changing. Success isn't about winning. Success is about helping others win. Over the next year, the movement grew faster than I could keep up with. Try Again expanded into multiple countries. People shared stories in dozens of languages. Communities formed on forums, social media, local meetups. We started a scholarship fund to help students who had failed and needed a second chance. We partnered with mental health organizations to provide resources and counseling. We launched a podcast where people shared their 9th failure moments and how they kept going. Everywhere I went, people recognized me as the guy who failed 9 times. And strangely, I wore that title with pride. Because failure wasn't my weakness anymore. It was my identity, my message, my purpose. One afternoon, I received a video message. I opened it and instantly felt my throat tighten. It was Noah, my cousin, the boy whose one assignment had saved me. He was older now, more confident, standing in a college hallway. He said, "Ethan, guess what? I got into the university I always wanted. I failed twice before, but I tried again because of you. Because you taught me that failure doesn't define you, it prepares you." He smiled wide. "I love you, cousin, and I'm proud of you." Tears welled in my eyes. There it was, the full circle, the moment the universe whispered, "This is why you didn't give up." Years have passed now. Try Again is no longer just a platform, it's a worldwide community with millions of people lifting each other up after every fall. The book became a global bestseller in several languages. I've spoken on stages in front of thousands. I've mentored entrepreneurs, students, professionals, and dreamers who were afraid of failing just one more time. But the truth is simple. Everything I am today happened because I failed 9 times. Those failures broke me and rebuilt me into someone stronger, humbler, more resilient, more human. If I had succeeded early, I would have learned nothing. If I had given up, I would have become nothing. But because I tried again, one more time, my life changed. And now, if you're listening to this story, wondering whether you should try again, wondering whether you have anything left, wondering whether failure means it's over, hear me clearly. It's not over. You're not done. You're still becoming. Failure is not your final chapter. It's the page before the rise, the test before the breakthrough, the fall before the climb. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're in training. My name is Ethan Miller. I failed 9 times. But the 10th time, the time I almost didn't try, changed everything. And your 10th time is waiting for you. Subscribe now. Join the Bright World English Academy family and let's start your English learning journey together.